Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to Somewhat Frank. I'm Frank Gruber, your host, also the CEO and co-CEO of Established and Established Ventures, and the team behind Startup of the Year. Hope you're having a great day today. I'm joined today by my colleagues and friends, John Guidos, Jen Consalvo, and Simon Kahan. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right. Jen, I hope you're doing all right. I know we had Simon filling last week, and he's back again. He did a tremendous job last week, so we're excited to have him back. And we're going to kind of go around the horn here and get some quick updates. John, what have you been up to?
Well, I'm getting ready for summer, currently fixing up an older Jeep, so I need to actually pick that up later today, having some work done on it. So it's kind of the summer vehicle to cruise around with the top down all year. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Also getting ready. We have a trip to Florida coming up. So we're going to look for some shark teeth and do those sorts of things and spend some time on the beach. And then also we have an infestation of field mice over here in Indiana. So I'm really considering getting a barn cat, even though I'm super allergic to cat dander. Been looking into it a lot, doing a lot of research to getting a barn cat out there to kind of keep things in check a little bit.
That would make sense. They do a good job. Curious, did you see that video? I think I sent you a video recently about sharks, and if you wear certain kinds of flippers, like the color of the flipper matters, things like that. So you might want to rewatch that before you go diving.
Oh, I definitely watched it, and I wrote down some good notes. Definitely not going to wear any of those colors or any of that stuff. So the last thing I want to do is attract any sharks.
Right. Yeah. I think was it like yellow is bad, which I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, I was scared. I have to get rid of half of my bathing suits because I don't want to be messing around with any shark attacks down there.
Yeah, I thought yellow for sure would be a good color to wear for flippers. It's really not quite. We could drop that in the show notes, but anyway, it's somebody that dives with sharks all the time. All right, Jen, what are you up to?
So let's see. This week was there was a lot of anticipation build up for last night, which was it was my singing debut. So I've always wanted to sing since I was a little kid, like singing in the mirror with my hairbrush. And this year Frank kindly got me singing lessons, voice lessons. And the instructor, who mostly teaches little kids how to play piano and other instruments, graciously asked us if we would be in the recital. So my daughter played piano, Frank is playing guitar, and I sang, and we did a family number to close out the show. And it was scary. I was shaking the entire time, but I did it, and I felt really good for doing it, and it was fun. And I would do it again.
Great job. And I think that we've got the clip from that. We can get to the tail end of the clip. We'll hear it right here. Let's hear it right now.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and all the things that you do.
All right, nice work. Very good job. All right, so I know it's not easy to do, especially like the first part of it, like once you get in front of it, of people, that's the hardest part. It's not like practice. Simon, you got some experience with singing in front of people. Any tips?
No. Every time I go out there, I feel like I'm learning to sing for the first time again. No tips, just just have fun out there, I guess.
Maybe we can all busk together.
Yeah, we can busk.
Get a big old hat.
I get really territorial about that in the subways. I've wanted to do it in New York, but they're like pretty aggressive about location and stuff. It's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, I've got the Kennebunkport Bridge locked down. I've got that. I'm going to go do that this summer. My summer
Nice.
work.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Moving on here. Simon, what have you been up to?
So I'm in Virginia for a wedding. I just went to Chick-fil-A and then I spilled all the secret sauce all over my pants. It really bummed me out. So I'm coming in with on a low note here. What
Wait,
else?
are
Oh,
those aren't the wedding pants?
not the wedding pants. I for
Okay,
some
good.
reason I packed like 9 sweaters and like hiking boots. I thought there might be an impromptu hike out there. There's not, unfortunately. I'm here for a wedding though, and I went outside and I heard like this continuous humming. It's like if your neighbor was using like a leaf blower.
Mhm.
And I asked what it was, and apparently it's just millions of cicadas all chirping or whatever their sound is. And so it's like this crazy humming sound. So yeah, I'm just kind of I got Chick-fil-A sauce on me and there's cicadas everywhere. I'm doing good.
Sounds like it. And that doesn't stop, right? Like they just keep doing that till they go
Yeah, I
back
get
underground.
yeah, I suppose I'm not really I never
So it must be
even
cicada
heard of them.
season because
Yeah,
they only come around so many years, and then they come out in droves, and then they're gone.
right.
This is
And we
supposed
can
to
look
be, I
up
think, one of the biggest years in what is it, like in the cycle, right? So it's supposed to
Yeah.
be huge this year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge cicada year. So you're gonna be hearing those chirps all weekend. All right. Let's see. Moving along. May's been good. I had another birthday, 46. Woohoo! Feeling good. Thanks to everyone that shared celebrations with me or sent up notes and whatnot, gifts, money, whatever. Appreciate that. I also did some donations, those Facebook donation things. Well, I was just looking at it the other day and I accidentally hit like publish, I guess. And by morning, I had already collected like a couple $100. I didn't even mean to push. I didn't even mean to do that, but I did it. And then I was like, oh, this is nice. So then I started doing it more. So I
Well,
raised
not
like
for you, right? For a charity.
no, for charity. Yeah, I raised for the Dempsey's charity. I mean, I shouldn't be telling you the backstory. I should have just said, I did this for charity, but it was an accident at first because they made it so easy to do apparently. And so user error raised some money, and then I did some more for River Tree, which is a art center here, and I had that basically raise money for that. So thanks everyone for that contributed to my fumble to raise money for my birthday because it's kind of feels good to do that. So appreciate that. And also it was the sixth birthday of Established. So we share the same birthday. It was Established. The company was launched on the side of Steve Case's and Rise of the Rest Revolution's bus touring through as on one of their tours. And because we actually had not or launched that brand yet, we were using Techco before when we were working with them, and so it was the first time that the brand was actually anywhere. It was on the side of a bus before we even really had a company or had any clients. So it's kind of a fun story. We share some more about those details in the latest blog post on actually Startup Year's blog. So if you want to take a look, we'll drop that in the show notes. But obviously went through some turbulent times there with unprecedented COVID pandemic things happening and whatever, and here we are 6 years later. So was not a straight, perfect, path, but we're here. So good stuff. All right. Also looking forward to the summer feel. It's starting to feel warmer out here. And what does that mean? Lawns are growing. So found an article recently in the Washington Post, timed perfectly because they're so good with their timing, about the fact that I need to cut my lawn. And it kind of talks a little bit about lawn mowing and the whole point of it and what's actually happening when you cut the lawn. So if you're all of a sudden out there mowing the lawn and don't know why, check out this article. It kind of shares some more details about it. But a lot of people, really adopted this no-mow lifestyle. I don't know if I could do that. It's supposed to protect the pollinants that are
Is that what they call it? Call it like NOMO? Like
no-mow, yeah. Well, it's because you're cutting down like the pollinators and that, help feed things and obviously turn it into
Hey,
nests.
I'm a dandelion fan, so I can't
I know.
complain. I like
Didn't you say the other day, actually, how did dandelions become a weed? Right?
That's what I was saying. Like they've
Yeah.
been villainized because people want perfect lawns, but like dandelions are really powerful. I drink dandelion tea a lot. You can eat the greens. They're awesome. And they're pretty.
Can you eat the yellow thing, like the top of the dandelion?
Yeah, I think every part of the dandelion is edible. Like the
Wow.
root, so the tea can be made out of the roots, the leaves. We always grew up, my dad would get them and you could put them in salads, or I've put them in smoothies and things like that, and they're really healthy.
Plus,
Well,
it's a
they're
great like just little toy for kids sometimes to blow those
Yeah,
little.
you can like pop them off.
Well, they
Yeah.
pop them up, but then before they pollinate, they turn into that like the big puff ball, and you can blow them all out.
Oh
That's
my
like-
God, are those the two same plants?
Yes.
You just learned something.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
They call it the no-mo lifestyle, but I think that in most neighborhoods, it's the person that everybody's unhappy with, because if you leave your grass growing forever, it looks like it's a a dilapidated tear down kind of a thing. But I don't think I can do it.
That is mine right now.
Sounds like an excuse to me.
Yeah, no, I got to
Because they're
get
going
out there.
no-mo.
Yeah, we're going no-mo. That's our thing. But
So you put up a sign, we're not sloppy, we're just going no-mo.
yes, exactly. So anyway, I thought that was a good light way to jump in here, because we got a lot of AI discussion today, a lot of artificial intelligence, a lot of happening in that space. First off, let's talk about the OpenAI ChatGPT 4.0 Omni. I'm talking like a robot. Launched this week, and it's not a robot. It doesn't talk like a robot. Have you guys seen this? It's insane.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They made it really flirtatious is my whole thing. Like the voice assistant, because they're trying to make it more into like a Siri type of product.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen the movie Her, where this guy falls in love with his virtual assistant? It is like shockingly similar to kind of where we're at now. And
yeah, that's what I
she
put that as
sounds
our,
like
our
she likes
watching
me.
list. Yeah, I put that as our watching list later today, or we're going to talk about later, because we need to all rewatch that movie, right? Like that movie is, it was made in 2013, and it was spot on to where we are today with basically this launch. And that's spot on, Simon. Somebody's going to fall in love with this thing.
And
I'm falling
really,
in love.
all they're falling in love with is whatever voice you pick. Because if you picked a robot voice, it would
I
be
am a robot
such a different, like, visceral experience, emotional experience than if you pick a voice that you personally resonate with, like have some attraction to. So it's really, I mean, yes, the words matter, but the voice is really like you just said. You listen to one like from a couple years ago, right? Some type of very early on type of voice to now, and it's wild.
I'm at a phase where I'm talking to my ChatGPT 4, and it's wild. They have, the hesitations, the ums, the yeahs, the laughing in between things. I sent one to Frank earlier on Instagram, and it was, you were having a real conversation with her. It sounded like a real person. I could see how you would get a crush on, because it was laughing at your jokes, no matter how stupid or mundane they were or anything like that. So it was giving advice. It was pretty crazy.
It's it's interesting that we automatically start to assign gender based on the voice, right? Like you said it most of the time, but you said her for a second, right? Like, and if you think about any type of device like Siri, a lot of people will say her. Well, it's not. There is no gender.
Yeah.
But that's our future, and it's going to be very interesting to see how kids who are growing up with this, like as natives, how they embrace it and respond to it.
Well, you definitely could see this once it starts having. People are going to start marrying them.
Oh yeah, people are already marrying weird stuff. Like, you see these things too, these strange people that marry their car or their pillow or whatever, so they're definitely going to be, they probably already have. There's people that are definitely in love with their computers, right?
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Already? It's been out like in 2 days.
Hey, it sounds nice, right? Somebody that's not going to argue with you, that's going to laugh at your jokes. I mean, it sounds decent. It's companionship, and people need that too.
But I've seen too many movies, John. It can turn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, it's kind of interesting. And so so this upgrade obviously allows people to interact with voice and have this real life conversation. And not, I think that, like what you guys said, I think John, you mentioned it, and Simon too. It's other components that are interesting, right? Like it's not that it's just like spitting out answers when it says you say something, right? It's like it's got the ums and the ahs and clever, witty kind of responses that are kind of not something you would expect from AI yet, I guess. So I think that's what I kind of drew from it. All right, so moving along here, we got Google's also in the race. There's a lot of people in the race. Well, first, before we talk about Google, Apple, Siri was literally the first podcast we talked. Oh, I'm not talking to you right now. We're not talking. My phone just asked me a question because I said Siri, but it doesn't work that well. Shh, let's turn it off. No, get off there. Hey. All right, so other than me from when I say the word, her name or his name, we've had such a hard time with it working. So I feel like Apple really missed the ball here on this, or dropped the ball on this one. But they are jumping into the space according to some recent reports, and so
Can't ever count them out.
can't cut them out. No, no, no.
Apple's coming.
They could have been secretly working in their lab for on the new thing forever, but obviously it's not good enough for Apple's standards. So that's quite possible, and they maybe all of a sudden just drop it on us. But then obviously Google's got their Astra project too. They had their OpenAI, or sorry, Google I/O conference this week, and so with that they dropped a ton of different updates around their AI products and just working with. They dropped it all the developers, right? Because that's their who's going to kind of start building off this stuff. So they released this video showing Astra, and it identifies locations and surroundings, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. And it definitely, you remember when they started with Google Glass, right? Well, this is way more sophisticated than that, right? So this is really interesting. I think they're coming in hot too. So not to be counted out either, right? Google's been around for a long time, and one other thing they did recently as part of their updates is they started dropping AI as far as into search, which is a big deal for Google because that's where they've generated the revenue for so long and kind of got their name, right? So in search now, you can, when you search something, there's going to be a generated AI version of the response first. Ranking, number one ranking is their AI stuff. So shows the power of Google still, because they've got that great advertising placement for whatever they launch. And we've already got the behavior built, so now they've got it out there. What it does do, though, is it pushes down all the people that have been paying or muscling up to try to be in that number one spot for decades. So that's got some people a little bit angry / upset. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But now we got to start building for AI versus starting building for SEO, right? So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and what's an interesting concept, and I know there's similar products in this industry, let's call it, but the idea of providing some sort of comfort for people that lose a loved one, right? Like, so you can take a body scan and a scan of your image and your face, and then you do some vocal or some language exercises, and it, the system records your voice, and then when you do, if and when unfortunately you do pass away, you can actually, your loved ones can talk to a version of you. It looks like you, it sounds like you, it thinks on its own. So I mean, that's going to be huge. There's going to be, there's somebody already working on that, right? You would think. So I think there'd be a market there for sure.
Well, that's really interesting. I've thought about that too. When my stepdad passed away a few years ago, and I was like, gosh, I've got all these texts. I wonder if I could plug it into ChatGPT and turn it into him. And when I text the ChatGPT version of him, it would just respond like he would have.
Oh,
That'd
definitely. Or export all of your, all of your own personal text messages from your own phone, so it can kind of think how you think to some extent. There's data there, right? And then you could upload it to a avatar of yourself that speaks like you, uses your mannerisms.
Somebody's probably already doing it, right? Like somebody's probably already building these for us, and we're just gonna have to plug it in at some point. And I think that is definitely true. And then you took it a step further with the actual physical component. So CAA is already doing this for artists.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they've got a lab that they're literally recording their likeness. They're scanning them so that they can be in video games and in virtually created in movies. They've got their voice. They're taking their voice. They're really doing all this, collecting all that data so that literally they can sell every component of them without them having to do anything.
Well, right, because you become an asset once you sign on with you give them your personal IP, let's call it, right? Your likeness. They're paying you for that. So, for example, that gentleman, the Black Panther actor, I can't think of his name, Chad, the Black Panther actor, if this technology would have been a couple years earlier, and they may already have some of it to some extent, right, where they scan all, his voice and his likeness, his build, they could actually make, movies that look like him and him acting in the future as a continuation of that character. Yeah, and they're doing that now.
Boseman?
Chadwick Boseman, correct. Yeah.
That would be really cool. And I'm just thinking like the applications, like museums are going to be awesome. If you walk by like an exhibit of some famous explorer and they embedded their characteristics, that'd be great. I think part of me is really excited. Part of me is also maybe a little bummed out that like the entirety of who you are can be distilled into essentially like ones and zeros and stuff. But it's fascinating and it's bound to lead to some really cool technology, whatever it is. It's going to be very crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like anything else where, when you mentioned that, seeing and hearing from some explorer, the likeness of them, it might be easier now because people's lives are online. So we actually have real likenesses. We have real accounts from them, but depending on how far back you go, it's really just a reflection of whoever created it.
Yeah.
So you have some slanted version of that history
Sure.
that will really seem real now. So that's an interesting take.
That's
But
powerful.
I love if you could combine what you're talking about, like the loved one, right? With my favorite part of that Astra video was where the woman said, "Where are my glasses?" and the AI told her exactly where to find her glasses next to the red apple, I believe. And to me, like, oh my God, like that is huge,
crazy.
right? And imagine someone just being able to talk to, a likeness of a loved one, being like, "Honey, help me find my thing." And they're like, "You
Right.
left it the same place you always leave it, by the car keys."
Right.
There's just so many little things there that I think, as John said, could really bring people comfort and comfort.
There's
Maybe
been a lot of loneliness, right? People are alone. We've talked about this before. A lot of those suicide rates are high, loneliness, depression, all that. So I think this could actually potentially help in some way. Speaking of glasses, Jen, you could also just buy a lot of different pairs of them, but just leave them around the house. That could be one way to do it.
Thank you. Frank just bought me like 3 or 4 pairs of readers so that I can do exactly that.
Yeah.
Oh, I bought a whole
low profile version. Yeah.
I bought a whole when I went a couple of months ago, the first time that they said I needed readers in my entire life. I feel like I'm really getting old. I went on Amazon to that prescription that they said. I bought a 10-pack, and they have been sitting around the house not touched ever since. So I have a pair of these in my truck and every other room of my house, and I've never touched one of them. So except for this.
Well, I would refuse.
But you're ready.
Jen, don't give up. Don't give up, John. Just fight it.
Right.
Just keep staring at computer screens and phones. You'll be you'll be there in no time.
Right.
All right. So we talked a little bit about, John, about you brought up the you talked a little bit about the bringing up the fact that you've got this situation where you're able to recreate people potentially. I kind of want to talk about Ray Kurzweil a little bit. Kurzweil's he had the South by Southwest speech. We were all at South by. He talked about the potential for living to 2035, which, I mean, the question is that really like you, or is that like your kind of aura or whatever, like your AI version of you? So I'm not really sure, but anyways, he's saying we're approaching the singularity, and I think he's talking about your actual physical being, and he's saying that if he, within the next 5 to 6 years, if the advances continue, with nanomedicine and with gene therapy, we should be able to achieve a 500-year lifespan for humans.
Yeah, that's wild. So there's a few different things. I actually know probably more about Ray than I should, but I read his book about singularity maybe 15 years ago, which he talked about back in like the 80s and 90s, right? This idea of when people's brains and AI are basically going to be at the same level, and in some cases actually somewhat morph into one another, right? This is a while ago since I read all this, but singularity is something that he was known for. But I think what he's recently been noted as saying in that speech you're talking about was, the advances in gene therapy and scans, right? You can go, and you sent me an article, Frank, where you can go, and soon you're going to be able to go in for a yearly scan, and it can scan your entire body from head to toe to see if there's any issues arising, right? And you can get ahead of those things, and then some of the other treatments that are available now. So if you're able to live for another 5 years, the technology will be at a point where you're going to be able to live to be 500 years in your physical state, right?
Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, just launched the full body scan as a startup, right? So he's got a startup doing it, and there's others too. So I think it's going to be more mainstream, because you can't make a product like that and just have like 10 people use it and make it worth it, right? From a startup
And that's the
perspective.
thing, like the people I know who have been able to do those types of scans, or those things where you're able to go to, like, I don't know, the Mayo Clinic or something and get like a 2-day full workup to know everything that's going on in your body. It's very expensive, right? So, when we talk about this, are we talking about just a availability to a certain segment of the population? Or are we talking about the price is really coming down so it becomes available to the masses?
Yeah.
Because that's when it gets really interesting from a population perspective.
Yeah, I feel like it could get pretty dystopian kind of quickly. If the only people who can live for these amount of years are those who have the resources to. But I feel like once I'm 75, you can just kind of pull the plug. Like, I don't know if I need to live to 5.
Did
You
not
say
grow up
that
to
at your
70?
age
He's
until
got to live
you.
another
I
5 or
know.
6 years. He can live to 500. Why would you do
I don't know
that?
if I want to live to 5. I mean,
Well, it's quality of life, right? I've given this a lot of thought, more thought than I probably should. But do you want to live to 500 but be like basically in a petri dish, just floating around because you can't move, or do you want to live and be physical and be able to walk and do fun things until you're 100, right? Like there is that argument to be made, Simon. So I think I may be on your side a little bit with that one.
Well,
yeah,
the
like
cool
once I
thing
can't, once
Okay.
sorry, Frank, but once I can't move or you can just, I don't know, you can just throw me in the trash, man.
No,
You don't even need to cremate me. You can just like push me into
No.
like one of those
Nice,
big hefty
Simon,
trash
Simon.
bags. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I don't know if we're gonna have to work on that because man, so much to live for. So much to live for. 75. You could be 75 could be like the new 20 or 10.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
what
so
about
I think we're in
90?
agreement about quality, right? So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you have a quality, physical, mental quality of life,
Yeah.
then most of us would probably want to get more out of life. But when one or both of those goes, then it's like,
Yeah.
Do you want to be a vegetable for 400 years or just slowly slide off into oblivion? But so, Simon brought up a good topic here about dystopian, and so what I think about too is you have Princess Kate right now that, had a pretty significant diagnosis recently. And so I'm curious because, they have all of the power and wealth known to, at their hands, right? To see how they're going to go about treating her. I'm sure we aren't going to hear everything about it, but for years there's been rumors of these different cancer treatments are only available to the super wealthy or super powerful. Well, she's kind of like exhibit A, right? I mean, there's nobody probably more powerful or wealthy than the royals. So it's interesting to see where that goes as well.
For sure. And just to close the loop on this full body scan, the company's Neko Health, his goal is to have, full body scans for about $230. So
Okay.
That'd
that's
be
pretty
great.
flexible. It's for the people, and that makes sense just from a business model perspective, because when you do this for like the 1%, I guess you'd have to charge, millions of dollars to make it work.
well, or tens of thousands. I mean, anytime you're above into those thousands, even that right now you can get blood tests that scan for like 50 different cancers that are very rarely scanned.
Gallery test, right? We did the
But
gallery
it's-
test,
we did the gallery test, but
$899.
It's expensive, and not that many people are going to, do that on a regular basis, because
Sure.
every few years you need to redo it.
Well,
All right, switching gears, we're going to talk because I know we're getting tight here. John, did you have one more thought?
Nope. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, it's actually switching gears to actually health. Why? My question always goes around this the same. It's like, why is the dental health not considered healthcare? I mean, it's your freaking mouth. Like, it makes no sense to me. It's a separate coverage. And speaking of which, Johnny, I know you went to the dentist recently, so I wanted to talk about this article I saw about scientists are maybe thinking that you might be able to eventually grow new teeth. So how do you feel? How's the dentist?
Well, the dentist was awful. I had to have a cavity filled, which, I haven't had a cavity filled since I was in my teens probably. But Frank, to your point, right? Why isn't it? I know that and I have to look this up and I'll drop it in the show notes, but there have been studies that attribute mouth health and teeth health to your expected longevity of your life, right? Because like if you have issues that are related around, your mouth, they definitely are an indication of your health,
heart disease,
overall health. Right.
Yeah, so your heart, and now the newest one I just saw was a connection between your mouth and colon cancer. I had never heard that one before. So every day they're finding all these things related to oral health.
Brush those teeth.
And go to the dentist when you can.
Yep. So anyway, but I guess the silver lining is, from a science perspective, they're targeting this ability to be able to grow new teeth in the near future. So check that article out.
Frank,
dentures and implants. I have an implant right here.
I was going to say no more silver linings, because they took 2 of my silver fillings out and made them white enamel. So I just wanted to kind of joke around about that.
Yep. There you go.
I want to get one of those, I want to get a kind of a grill. That's what they're called, right?
Yes,
I want it to be like black though. I have a really cool. There's a picture in my head that I want to achieve. I just got to work towards it.
Black teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you had licorice or something.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at,
I think, right?
Yeah. There
I've
you go.
heard it's really helpful for dating.
I was thinking a face tattoo. I don't know. Just trying some. I mean, I'm in New York. Why not?
Yeah. Do
Brooklyn.
both. Why not? All in a weekend. All right. Testing. A couple of things here. We already talked about Her. That's something we've been watching. I'm gonna jump right into watching Her. We're gonna be watching that this weekend for sure, just to kind of get the closer look as to how closely it is to the current AI situation. Also, there's a barking dog that Simon's been hearing. What kind of dog is it, Simon?
Oh, it's the worst. I hate this dog. It's like an incredibly old, those like wiener dog things, with like really floppy ears. It's the worst. Gosh.
No.
But his name's Asher.
Oh,
It's quite loud.
I don't hear him. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. What else have we been watching? We've been watching. So there was a drop of a new piece of art. So consider this like art watching, I guess. Y'all saw that King Charles has his portrait and wanted to get your take on the very red portrait, because some of the people that are out there, it's basically this red portrait. His face comes out of what looks like he's laying in blood, and on his right shoulder there's a butterfly, or left shoulder. Was it right shoulder or left? It's gonna be right shoulder. Right shoulder.
Yeah, highly discussed. I don't know if controversial is the right word for it, but it is a strange portrait. And I saw the artist explain, where he was going with it and what the thoughts were. And I guess King Charles really likes it. However, there's been a lot of debate about what it actually means. And obviously the butterfly, I guess, is a symbol that he loves the environment and being outside. A lot of other people are saying that the red should be depiction of the bloodshed during the royals' reign over other countries and stuff. So, but definitely a kind of an odd portrait, I would say.
Or he just likes red, or it's rage, or it's.
But it feels quite ominous.
It does.
It does have a. I mean, red just as a color is a rather aggressive color, right? It already connotates certain things, and the way it engulfs him, almost like flames, the whole thing feels very aggressive to me.
Definitely more of a dictator type portrait than a loving environmentalist, I would think, right? So.
Do you have to get someone's permission to make a portrait of them? Like, do you think he asked for this to be made?
Yeah, I think that's just something to do.
No, there is. So there is a little bit of a process to it. I know for like the presidential ones, and then I believe that they select the artist, and then they do have. It's a big deal, right? Like it's almost like it comes with the coronation. So we'll have to look more into that. But yeah, definitely.
Yep. Speaking of barking dogs, ours are barking now. Got somebody at the front door, so might take a moment here. I think Jen just jumped out. This is real. This is live. This is what happens when you're recording a podcast, and sometimes things happen like this. So, anywho, we'll jump right back in. Reading, and and then hopefully we can get Jen back here in a second. But basically reading, I've been reading everything related to raising chickens. So I think last week or last podcast, I talked about potentially getting chickens. Well, I didn't just potentially get chickens. I potentially bought 6 chickens, which is a lot of chickens. And I literally bought 3, brought them home, and realized I need silky chickens. So I ended up finding them in the middle of the night on Craigslist and driving was it like 200 miles to find them, get them from the Craigslist person, and bring them home. So now we have 6 chickens, and they're all doing great. They're about 2.5 weeks old, but it's a lot to think about and learn. And so I've been trying to read everything as we now are raising chickens at the Kennebunkport Ranch. And now I've got to figure out next, what am I going to do from a coop perspective? Because they're currently in this indoor area, as they're they're tiny little chickens, and they're really super cute. But I got to figure out the coop and run that's going to be outside, and figure out, I figured out you don't need permits if it's mobile. So I'm figuring that all out, and I'm looking at 3 different options. There's some brands that are kind of forward tech forward, I guess you could say, and I love technology products and gadgets. So one's called Nestera, and they've got a lot of different options there with a mobile version, and then Omelet is another one. So if you know of any of these people at these companies, or if you're hen influencers or influencers for brand ambassadors for any of these companies, please do reach out. Somewhat Frank at est.us. Trying to connect with Nestera, Omelet, Smart Coop is the other one. And I'd love to get in touch and learn more about your options as we do make this very important decision about where do these beautiful little chicks the chickens gonna live, and how do we keep them safe, because our area has every kind of predator you could think of that could potentially hurt them. So we need a very predator safe, protective area for these chickens.
Right, Frank, and I've been overwhelmed with your, you've been sending me information, asking. I have a couple years of chicken experience under my belt at this point. I actually built my own chicken coop. Took me about 2 months and about $25,000 to build. No, I'm just kidding. But it did take me longer and was more expensive than I had anticipated. And this is our second round of chickens, and we have a Polish chicken and some other ones. Her name's Gloria, but we've had a lot of fun with them. And I know you're in your infancy with your chicks, but you're gonna have a lot of eggs coming soon.
And it's a lot of fun. Actually, I learned a lot. It was really the reason was more or less for my little one. It was motivation to get her to go to school. We had made an agreement that she would get a hamster, which then quickly escalated to 2 guinea pigs. And I've spent thousands of dollars to make sure that there's no rodents in my house, like ever. And so the last thing I wanted to do was introduce 2 rodents to my house with 2 little dogs that literally were bred to chase rodents because I felt there would be a tragedy at some point. Now, there still could be, don't get me wrong, but these chickens seem like they hold their own. Dogs have kind of adapted a little bit better to them, and they're protective of the chickens. So, so far, so good. But I got to figure out this outdoor situation soon because they've got a little time, but not much. Like I think 3 or 4 weeks, and we got to get those puppies outside. And so I'm working on what that would look like. And there's a lot of great options with great technology. They've got cameras and things now, and like automatic doors. We can let them in and out. Like
I am all about the remote control and automation because I do not want to become like beholden to we got to rush back from our lovely trip to go let
the chickens out. Right.
The worst is
super self-sufficient. I mean, John, you actually keyed me into this. You can feed them, like have the food out there. They kind of go in at night, come out during the day, and they have food there. As long as they got food and water, they're good.
Yeah, usually they can go for about a week, if you give them enough food and water. So that's the reason why we like them as well. The worst is the winter time when you have to go out there and it's freezing and, mess with their water, their food, or clean them a little bit. So, but I'll help you all out through that one because there's definitely some hacks that can help you with those situations.
There's going to be an AI robot chicken keeper. Probably not tender. Chicken keeper.
I actually have some
tender. No.
I actually have some distant relatives that live in Ohio, and they've made their living. They actually have a patent for some sort of an automated chicken feeder of some sort. So we may need to reach out to them as well.
Yeah,
all right.
I'd be interested in testing it out.
And all you listeners out there, if you have an awesome like chicken coop idea for a very small yard that's like, we need to keep it relatively contained and for winter, send them in.
Right. Yeah, definitely love to hear that. Somewhat Frank at est.us. And I mentioned earlier, Nestera, Omelet, and Smart Cooper, the 3 that I've kind of honed in as like the most tech advanced that might work really well because they all have wheels and you can move them around. And next thing you know, man, we'll just end up being chicken farmers. Yard farmers, if you will. All right, moving along here. Johnny, what are you watching?
Well, I'm not watching, but I read a funny article about University of North Carolina, some frat bros. They had an American flag up on the front of their house, and they defended it. They defended its honor from some protesters, and there's a lot of protesting going on, as we know, nationwide these days. And so they put a GoFundMe up there. You could donate to their party fund to celebrate their protecting of the flag. So I made a small donation, about $10, so they could buy a case of beer or something like that. But they have raised $515,000 to throw a rager in celebration of defending the flag. So my thoughts go back to what's that movie, Old School, right, where they have like Snoop Dogg come and play a concert for their frat or something like that. So I thought it was pretty funny.
That's gonna be a crazy party. Oh my god, can we go?
Yeah, for sure.
Someone Frank is covering it live.
We
may need to do a remote from that party.
Yes, reach out to them. We'll get that going. When is it?
Don't know yet.
All right, Jen, what do you? So we're gonna switch on. Jen, you been reading anything? Are you watching anything? Or are you testing anything?
I've not been watching as much. I've been like singing.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned a while ago that I was excited to try the Vitamix food cycler, and I finally have. I've been using it rather regularly. So every day we scoop things into this little bucket, it runs overnight, and then in the morning you have compost and you just throw it outside in the yard.
Nice.
And it makes you feel a little bit better about some of that, contribution to the environment.
Fantastic. It is kind of cool, like how quickly it turns it into compost.
Well, and it's supposed to be helping with, I guess the the gases let off from food waste out in the environment is pretty detrimental. So if we can turn that into compost that can then help the earth and grow things, then all the better.
I wonder, is that compost good for chickens or anything like that? I'm curious. No, probably not. Like to be around? Probably they don't eat it.
Find out. We'll get back to you.
Okay. I'll have to read about that a little bit more. Simon, anything you're testing, reading, watching?
I'm actually reading this great book. I can't remember the author's name, but it's called Men Without Woman, and it's the Japanese author who writes like different vignettes about men and like the importance of like it's their wife or their daughter or their mother. It's kind of interesting. Kind of makes me sound intellectual when I tell people about it. I'm on like page 4. But it's good. It's good. I'm trying to read more.
Carry it around at this point.
Yeah. So I had a party the other day in my apartment, and I left like my journal out and like a book slightly open and stuff. But yeah, no, that's sort of what I'm reading these days.
All right, we'll have to check that out. All right, moving along here. It is graduation season. Congratulations to all the graduates all around the country, every level. You notice that there's a lot of celebrities doing, graduation speeches all over, and wanted to kind of end on that note. There's some really good ones. Y'all see anybody interesting that you wanted to highlight? I know I'm going to end on, I think, the one from Sunday, but any others that you may want to talk about?
I haven't seen any this year, but I know Conan O'Brien did a really good one at Harvard a couple of years ago. It's worth taking a listen if anybody's interested out there.
Yeah. Definitely seen a lot of people doing away. There's been a lot of riots and things in different areas, different protests at universities. And so therefore they've been doing away with it. But there was a really great one by Jerry Seinfeld. Unfortunately, there was some negative press around it and people kind of acting negatively around it before that he actually gave the speech, but where people kind of walked out. But unfortunately, that happened, but he still gave a great speech. And, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, do check it out, because it's, he gave it at Duke. And, even after being faced with an unexpected turn of events, he was able to kind of turn it around and give out this great speech. So he basically said, he admires the ambitions of the generation and to create more just and inclusive society. And so anyway, long story short, he says more or less, don't lose your sense of humor. So I think that's the kind of punchline there, but you can read the quote. We'll drop it in the show notes, and I think it's better if you watch it. So Jen, you like that one too. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I think it's really important. I think it's important to care about the things you care about and bring passion to all of that. But when we lose the ability to have that sense of humor, I mean, the older you get, the more you realize you depend on it to get through life, because, and he called this out really, really well. There's so much about life that will never make sense, that will never be right. We can't fix every problem. We can try, we can do the best we can, but do not lose your sense of humor, because you'll lose the joy of life. And, what's the point of living if we can't have a little joie de vivre?
Right. That's a great point. All right. And with that, that's our cast today. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks to my counterparts here on the show, John, Jen, Simon, thanks so much. And everyone have a great day. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.